views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail. Oh, my goodness. Whoa, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is so great to be, I just love this. It's so great to be catching up with all of you and, you know, to be connecting in the ways that we get to connect with you. And I got to apologize in advance for those of you out there that have sent me emails based on my request the other day. We will get back to you. We just did not expect as many. And for those of you that didn't hear the show the other day, we'll be letting you know how you can connect with us. There are many, many things we're doing. One of them, as I said the other day, we're bringing back the holistic makeover. And I am so hoping that, you know, my co-host today jumps in and is part of our coaching team, which I believe she will be. Mm-hmm. Why? Because what she does is amazing. Love Seeker Radio today. I love this. With Coach Heather Lynn. Finding love for your authentic self. I don't even know. I mean, finding love for your authentic self. I'm hoping she could help me find like for my authentic self. We've heard this over and over and over again about the process of this and why it's important. But today, it is so amazing to have her here as she's going to talk about some of the top mistakes that we make when we're looking for love. Okay, now how do we know they're mistakes? Well, as a matter of fact, Heather, I was talking about this morning when I was talking about my exes are not from Texas, but I wish that's where they would go back to. Why? She's laughing. And we are going to be giving away a 30-minute session for one of you out there during the show. I love this. Also, we're going to be talking about, you know, one of her upcoming coaching circles that she's doing. I love that. We could talk why a circle, because there's so much we could talk about in terms of why we all are connected and how do we stay connected for the highest good for all of us. This is really kind of the coolest thing. But, you know, somebody said this morning I was at an early morning meeting, Heather, and thank you for joining me here today. Mm-hmm. Somebody said there's a song. Now, Benny probably could get it. And the song is Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. I think that is the name. I think that is the name of the song. But for you, coming up as a teenager or a young woman, right, there was certain things about you that was so endearing to so many people. But, you know, there's something that happens to us, each and every one of us, that like a switch that goes on and says enough is enough, whatever that is, right? And I would love for you to take us on a journey so we can get to know you a little bit about what your enough is enough was all about. Because I don't think that people listening to this show, I know they're right there with us, but when we get to that place, we don't know what to do with it. I'd love for you to chat about that for a minute.
Sure. Yeah, my story is probably like a lot of people out there where I, especially in my love life, I dated a lot and I had a lot of relationships. And what I noticed about my relationships was that I was always in them with people who just weren't ready. And they didn't honor me in the way that I wanted to be honored and felt like I had deserved. And, you know, I know that in those relationships, I didn't show up as my authentic self. But I didn't know that at the time. At the time I thought I was doing everything right because I had read all of the experts' books and followed all of the advice I'm a doer. So if somebody gives me a list of things to do, I'll do it and I'll do it well. So when I was dating a lot in my 20s and my 30s and in these relationships, I was doing all of the expert stuff exactly to a T. It's like I practiced before I would go out there, and it still wasn't working. And I think it was probably around my 35th birthday, I had my wake up call.
Uh-huh.
And that wake up call was, another man that I had been dating. One of my patterns that I attracted was people who just disappeared. Even if we had been in relationship, it's like they couldn't really be honest with me. And so they would just disappear. And this happened when I was around 35. And I remember just having this moment of such sadness, of course. Being sort of curled up in that fetal position, and oh my gosh, why is this happening to me again? And that moment really was my moment of awakening, where I finally realized that I was the common denominator in all of these experiences, that it couldn't be about the men, that there was something inside of me that I needed to explore and release, really, just to be more myself and understand myself better. So that's really how my experience has been in my love life. And
I want to ask you this question, though, because this is really what I love. I mean, you're working with people all over the world. I mean, we are talking about Love Seeker Radio, but most importantly, we're talking about, what you've created, right? Heather Lynn Coaching, but beyond all of that, what it's like to work with you and why it's so important to work with you nowadays. Because I think the traps, listen to me now. Okay. Top mistakes. Here we go. I think the traps that I have stepped into along the way had to do with not knowing that it actually was, I mean, like, what a metaphor. This, like a little bear track. Oh God, I don't even want to talk about this with the animal stuff. But the point that I'm saying, it's a giant pothole. And before I'm even realizing I'm in the thing, right? I can't see it. I don't know what's happened. And all of a sudden we hear this word, don't we? Blindsided, over and over and over again. And so I wanted to ask you about this because back then it seemed a little simpler. The whole idea, dating and meeting people, not that there were a whole lot of choices, but fast forward to where we are now, right? In the world. And online dating or online connecting and connecting in groups. And I'm such an introvert. How has our contemporary lifestyle, changed from when this was happening with you? And what is it about, Love Seeker Radio and Love Seeker Coaching and what you do? How have you had to adapt or not to the changing pop culture?
Yeah, well, I think it's at such a different time now, in the sense that it is moving so fast, and it's easy to get caught up in especially the online dating, which I'm a proponent of. I actually think it's great, but
I think it's great if you were my coach.
Yeah.
See, if I had you as the coach before I was doing all of that, I would think it's great.
Yeah. And I think people get caught up in sort of the overwhelm of it and how fast it can go and how there are so many choices of different people. So I think the challenge is really to use it as a way to learn more about ourselves. So really my business and my work with my clients is to help them understand themselves so well that they can be grounded in any dating and love situation because they're so grounded in themselves and who they are. And so it doesn't really matter which path they're taking to find love, whether it is that online path or some other way, they'll feel really anchored and grounded in who they are so that they can just accept and understand what's coming in for them. So we use it as a way for them to understand themselves and know themselves better.
Mm. Well, I love this because let me just talk about you for a minute, if I could. We're talking about Love Seeker Radio and we're talking about our authentic self because most of the conversation we have is about that person on the outside of us. But today we're going to really dig deep into another dimension of this. You're also a certified holistic health coach, which is great, a nutrition practitioner, a creative love coach. I love this. I love this because what we're talking about today, right, is whoa, wait a minute, that authentic self, finding love for your authentic self. Well, if I don't know who my authentic self is, don't you think it's a bit challenging for me to find that love for my authentic self, right?
Absolutely. And I think, we get so caught up in this persona world that we live in. Persona is, of course, the mask that we present to everybody. And in our society with all of the media and the glamour, we get caught up in feeling that we have to be perfect. And so there are parts of ourselves that we don't even see or acknowledge, and we try to hide. So
Wow.
the work is really about discovering those parts of ourselves too, and integrating that with our persona, because our persona is part of us as well. So it's a really great way to come into our wholeness, with those, and our authentic self is all of those things, the things that we try to shove away, and also the parts of us that we show to everybody else.
I love this. So I'm going to take we're going to just bop out here for a short break because when we come back uninterrupted, we want to talk with Heather Lynn about the mistakes. And I love that you have not, sugar-coated the word mistakes because, we hear this in this, like in the movement we had. Oh, don't say the word failure. Don't say the word mistake. But you know what? Let's knock the sugar off of the coding, and then let's knock the coding so we can understand what these things are that happen. What do we do when we are looking for the love? Let's take a short break. Got a great show. And those of you out there, we have got the phone lines open. I'm not saying that you all having any issues with this. No, that's not what I would be saying. But I'm saying if you have some questions, if you want to get a little help on this, 1-800-930-2819. Take a short break. When we come back, Love Seeker Radio, Coach Heather Lynn, finding love for your authentic self, top mistakes people make when looking for the love. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Well, I spent a lifetime looking for you. Single bars and good time lovers were never true. Playing a fool's game, hoping to win, and telling those sweet lies.
Hello, my name is Dr. Friedman Schaub. Anxiety can attack or creep up on us at the most inopportune moments, which makes us feel powerless and out of control. However, anxiety is a basic feeling that is created by our mind. Understanding some do's and don'ts about anxiety is a first step to demystify this emotion and regain control. The more we know about a challenge, the more we can find ways to overcome it.
Let the transition begin. Tune in to the hit show, Majestic Insights Radio, Success for Life's Transitions, with host Carrie Keith. Carrie is a gifted intuitive coach, healer, and teacher who will lead you through her empowering techniques of ancient wisdom and awareness so you can live your happiest, healthiest, and most vibrant life. Let Carrie teach you the tools of transformation that will help you experience success for all of life's transitions. To learn more about Carrie, visit www.majesticinsights.com. Are you feeling broken from your relationships? Are you second-guessing yourself about friends, family, and lovers? Tune in to the hit show that's creating a buzz in the love-seeking community. Love Seeker Radio, finding love for your authentic self with renowned love coach Heather Lynn. Tired of dissatisfying relationships? Kiss them goodbye and power up your love seeker energy. Coach Heather Lynn reminds you that you can just be you, the beautiful and perfect you. Visit heatherlynncoaching.com to learn more.
On the cutting edge of the new mainstream, Christine Upchurch is passionate about bringing together science, psychology, and spirituality in a way that can be applied to our everyday lives for true transformation. The Christine Upchurch Show, stellar conversations to illuminate your journey, engages some of the most outstanding visionaries on the planet in lively dialogue to inspire you to become that bright light you're meant to be. Join Christine every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time on KKNW, AM 1150, and Transformation Talk Radio.
Tune in to the hit show Masters Chambers with your trusted friend Connie Fife. Mondays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Each week, Connie will connect you with the best of the best thought leaders from around the globe to share their strategies and best practices. Getting better together. To book Connie, visit ConnieFifeSpeaks.com.
I was looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces, searching their eyes, looking for traces of what I'm dreaming of.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I can tell you that is probably the song of many of us listening to the show.
Can you name the movie, though?
No.
It was from a movie.
I didn't know it was a movie.
It very much wasn't a movie. All right. John Travolta.
Oh, that cowboy one.
Yeah. Come on, you got it. I'm gonna start calling you the urban cowgirl if I need to.
That's it. That was it.
Well, urban cowboy was, yeah.
Right, urban cowboy. Oh, my God.
There you go.
Oh, so Heather Lynn joining me here today, Heather Temple. And as I said before, this is Love Secret Radio. But more importantly, I want everybody to go to heatherlynncoaching.com for sure. And what you're going to do when you get there is you're going to find, what Heather's story is about, her love story. You're going to find out what you can do in working with her to help you and help you do what? Well, wait to hear the mistakes. Then you can figure out what you need your own help for, right? And then, she has these incredible circles. Before we talk about the mistakes, would you mind talking about the 6-month group coaching program and some of the circles? Can you talk about that for a minute? Because that is coming up soon.
Yeah, of course. I'm so excited about it. It's starting September 7th, and it's going to be a small group. I'm limiting it to 12 people max. And it's just a really great chance to work with other people. When we hear someone else getting coached, we also transform. And so it's going to be this great 6-month intensive program where we'll have 3 calls per month. The first 2 will be topical calls where I'll be teaching about these concepts. And then we'll have 1 Q&A call every month as well. So it's just going to be this great interactive time for people to experience what it's like to receive this amazing support in their love lives.
Well, let's I'm so thrilled that you do this, and I love the way you go about this, because so often we feel we're so alone. And I think that's what I want to talk about here for a minute, because we're talking about some of the mistakes we make. And I don't know. Maybe we make these mistakes because we do feel that loss, that loneliness inside of ourselves. And we think it is about another person. But lo and behold, maybe not. Tell us what some of the top mistakes are when looking for the love.
Well, I think, as I alluded to earlier, probably the biggest mistake that I was guilty of, and I see a lot of my clients doing as well, is playing games. So not showing up authentically, and, some of the games that I see them playing are, playing hard to get, not responding to text messages or phone calls, and not accepting dates, just saying, even if they have a wide open schedule, they won't accept a date because they want to look like they're busy. And even on the date, really guarding themselves by trying to play it really cool. And I'll never forget when I first hired my own coach, which, I love to work with my own coaches as well. And she said to me, well, you can keep playing games. It's a really great way to attract someone who's not very good at intimacy. So if we're staying in this game playing, surfacey, I don't want to show you my whole self space, then that's the kind of person that we are going to be attracting because that's what they're comfortable with as well, right? So we're attracting people at that level. But if we're really craving that deep relationship, we want someone who can accept us for who we are right from the get-go. And in fact,
I want to ask you about this. Can I ask you this about the before and after kind of thing? Do you think that online dating has exacerbated this issue, or do you think less? And the reason I'm asking this question, I got a friend that lied about her age, like by 10 years, and I was like, holy cow, wow. What do you think in the contemporary time we live in? Is there more or less game playing happening, or does it depend on the person?
Yeah, I think it does depend on the person, but I've seen a lot of examples of what you're talking about. And I think part of that is just this pressure that we experience these days to be a certain way in order to be lovable. You know, we have this perception that we have to be youthful, we have to be beautiful, we have to be, perfect. But and so I think that's where that pressure comes from. But if we really want to find someone who loves us for us, then we need to show up as ourselves, and everybody is lovable just for their very essence of being who they are. And so I think that online dating is a great way to even filter out people who aren't right for you. And I think I've mentioned this before, but I have a form of muscular dystrophy, and I used to not include it on my profiles because at the beginning of a relationship, I could kind of hide it. There are only certain circumstances that make it very obvious. And so I wouldn't put it out there. And so what would happen though is I would go on these dates and I would feel like, oh, I have this secret and I have to hide this secret. And it would change the way that I acted on these dates. I wasn't really showing up. I was pretending in some ways. And so now I put it out. I always put it out there because at the very beginning, because, my perfect person is going to love me for that. And so I think, online dating is a great way to filter out exactly who is going to love you for exactly who you are by presenting yourself really honestly.
Wow. Oh my gosh, this is so important, this conversation. And you touched upon something as well. People that maybe have something that they are not necessarily seeing as fitting into the ideal individual, right? What am I supposed to look like today? How am I supposed to how am I supposed to show up? And what if I have something like that going on? Can I ask you about this? Because maybe this is on your mistake list. Folks have this idea, you know what, Heather Lynn? I'm going to tell Joe, Mary, Tom, whoever, I'm going to get to telling them. I'm just not ready to tell them. And can you really talk about this? Because most folks are like, yes, I know I've got to tell him, I've got to tell her, but now is not the right time. Can you just share about whether or not there is a right time or what you've learned about the timing of talking to people about things that maybe kind of make you a little different perhaps, but also things you're maybe not really comfortable with?
Sure. I think the most important thing is to see the discomfort, to explore the discomfort. Why am I uncomfortable with this? And really use that as a way to see something about yourself. I would say that's first and foremost. And then from there, if you're coming from a really whole space where that you have your boundaries of safety and that you're really taking care of yourself, then you can share that from the very beginning. When we present ourselves very authentically and maybe, it could be something just even more simple than like having a disability like I do.
Right.
Maybe you have 5 ex-husbands or, and, I think the sooner you can get that out there, the faster you know whether that person is your right partner or potentially your right partner. Because if that's your truth, that's going to come out eventually anyway. And we don't want to fool someone into loving us first so that then we can drop that bomb later. We want someone who really loves us for all of us.
Mm. I love that we're talking about this because there's so many people that are ashamed of so many things. Can you just talk for a minute before we go to break? And then when we come back, we'll talk about some of the other mistakes that we make. Is shame the driver in a lot of the things that we don't want to disclose? Or is it broader than that? Like basically, I'm not good enough, bottom line.
Mm-hmm. I think for me and my work with my clients, the emotions are always what we want to tap into. So shame, I think, would be the central emotion there for most people. So what I have them do is really sit with that feeling and explore the feeling itself and try to step away from the story of why it exists, but really sit with the feeling and let it run its course. And we can talk a little bit more about that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think shame is central to a lot of our drivers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, I'm sure we're going to talk about this one mistake is that, how one lie then leads to another, and ultimately what does happen with that, and trust is then broken. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, Heather's going to talk a little bit more about the upcoming circle, what it's about, how it can help. And then we'll open up the phone lines, and we've got a special gift. When we come back, we'll be talking more about, what are some of these things that you literally do not want to do? You do not want to do them. And what are they? How do you know when you're getting ready to do them? And what is it about the relationship choices that we make, because of these errors, these mistakes? And most importantly, what can we learn? What can we learn how to do when we do realize we're making them? Is it more shame? Of course not. But how do we handle them? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Heather Lynn joining me here today, HeatherLynnCoaching.com. When we come back, she'll give you a little bit more insight into the upcoming 6-month Open Up to Love Inner Circle coaching program, which is great. And we will open up the phone lines, and one of you will receive a free 30-minute session with this amazing coach. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back.
Hoping to find a friend and a lover. I'll bless the day I discover another heart looking for love.
Dr. Love's Quickies.
Mary's about ready to give love the shove, 'cause no matter what she tries, guys don't know that she's alive. To turn guys on, she needs to turn on those green lights, nonverbal cues that say, over here. Most guys won't approach unless they're cleared for landing. So ladies, to kickstart your love life, turn on those green lights and flash your pearly whites. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf of AskDrLove.com.
Tune in to Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly Neff. This hit show will illuminate your senses and empower you beyond your daily stressors and hardships. Renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly will captivate you with far-reaching topics and amazing guests as you wake to the greatest version of yourself. Learn to tap into your intuitions, think critically about our world, heal emotional and psychological wounds, and follow your passions to live your dreams. The Lucid Planet. Welcome home. Visit lucidplanetradio.com for more information.
Become a self-actualized professional coach, mentor, and leader, and make your difference in the world. The Rainer Institute has trained people from 4 continents and is the top-rated, accredited coach platform in the world. You'll learn skills from a program created by Mark Rainer as a result of 35 years of research as to what actually works for positive, lasting change. Come if you dare and give your life a chance at making the difference it so desires. Visit RainerInstitute.com to learn more.
A morning filled with dynamic, inspirational music, spirituality, and uplifting messages by TJ Woodward. Come and connect with community conversations and awaken your senses. Awakened Living Sundays with TJ Woodward. Join TJ every Sunday in the San Francisco Bay Area Chapel at Fort Mason and live streaming online 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time. To learn more and access the live stream, visit www.awakenedlivingsf.org.
Do you want the freedom to spend more time with your loved ones? travel the world, live spontaneously? Get ready, because the Chip Justice Show is here. Hosts Dr. Pat Baccili and Chip Justice can help you build meaningful success while embracing life. Living a life you love is the end game in this new, inspirational, and empowering show. Positive changes for a life you'll love. Tune in every month on TransformationTalkRadio.com and visit PositiveChangeInstitute.co for more information.
And I was alone then, no love in sight. I did everything I could to get me through the night. I don't know where it started or where it might end.
Oh, nice going, Benny. For those of you out there, it's so great to have you tuning us in, turning us on. And what we'd love to do is give the first caller one free 30-minute session. 1-800-930-2819. And Heather's going to tell you a little bit about what that session is. And then we're also going to talk about, this fabulous coaching, inner circle coaching. So tell folks about the 30-minute session. And what we'll probably do is skip the last break, because we certainly have some things to cover here. But tell folks about the 30-minute session, if you would.
Sure. A 30-minute session. We can cover a lot in 30 minutes, which is great. It's a way to start pinpointing what's going on that's been preventing you from finding love. What is it that might be there? What sort of blocks might be there in your unconscious mind that might be keeping you from that? And it's just a great, quick one-on-one session, and really start to open people up to how to find better love and how to know themselves better.
I love it. And, and to help discover, right, what we talked about, some of the things we don't even know, we don't know.
Yeah.
It's really been the revelation for me.
Most people are living and loving on autopilot. They don't really know what's happening and why they're attracting what they're attracting and attracted to what they're attracted to. But this can be a wake-up call to get off of autopilot and start living in a conscious way.
Wow. So what are some of the other mistakes? And then also, the question is, what do we do when we discover them? How do we get some help with that? I'm sure that your upcoming inner circle coaching is going to help with a lot of this. So today this is just a short version, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that group will definitely touch or dig deeper into all of these things, and then really work with, okay, now we know these things. Now how do we move forward and really have that power of that knowledge? So it's going to be a great program for sure.
Cool.
So I think in addition to playing games, I think probably for me too, personally, and I see this a lot, is the mistake of blaming everyone else, or blaming the city that you live in, or, blaming, I don't know, your age. It's just like what you were saying too. When we blame the external, we're really, really not taking responsibility for our part in everything. And, we really are attracted to circumstances and people that feel very safe to our unconscious mind. So even if it's something that is uncomfortable on the conscious level, there's something in it that's keeping us stuck in these patterns. So when we take the power back from blaming everybody else, and we say, oh gosh, I've just been in 3 different relationships with people who are users, users. And when we stop and say, well, I'm the common denominator here, I'm the cornerstone of this experience. So what is it about me that actually feels safer in this type of relationship? Am I an overgiver? Am I someone who has a core love belief that I have to prove myself in order to be worthy of love? So when we really stop and say, okay, I'm the center of this, so I can no longer blame the external, then what? Then what do I discover about myself? And it's not to say that there's something wrong with us. It's just to help us understand why we might be choosing this type of relationship.
Wow. And you touched upon something that I think we should mention really quickly. I think what I heard you saying is, sometimes we have this need for approval that even goes beyond like love relationships, that shows up in a lot of the other relationships. And so we end up doing things that, what, we may not necessarily want to do, because I want you to like me, I want you to love me, I want you to approve of me. And I wanted to ask you, you know, my sense is that this is kind of the number one reason we stay in relationships that we literally really don't want to stay in. How does the need for approval slash like acceptance drive the dysfunction in some of the relationships we have?
Mm-hmm. Well, if we don't know ourselves all that well, and if we're not really grounded in our whole self, then we will need people to give us worth, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
in situations like that, if we don't really know that we already are whole and complete and beautiful in ourselves, and that our partners are really just literally that, they're partners, they're not completing us or giving us anything or taking anything away from us. If we're not in that space already, then we're going to put a lot of pressure on the external to make us feel worthy. So there's that place where a lot of people really work and overwork and overgive and overprove in order to be accepted and get other people's approval. So it's really about finding a way to really be grounded in your own self so that there's not as much tendency to do that.
Sometimes I've heard this before from other people, and it's certainly been something that I've experienced myself. And it's that thing where, boy, I don't remember the expression, where, I know this is not working right here. I know what I'm doing is not working, but it's better than not knowing. It's better than not knowing the thing that you want me to now try and do. So I'm going to stay stuck in this pattern of what I've been doing, because even though it just hasn't worked out, I'm holding out that it will. Have you heard that before?
Oh, yeah. And I call that being afraid of the in-between, knowing that we have a change to make, and maybe we're in a relationship that's not serving us, or maybe we're in these patterns that aren't serving us, but we're really afraid of that gap of going from here to there. And that's where having a coach can be so awesome, because we can hold your hand through that gap. I can hold your hand through that gap and get you to the other side. But, we have to let go of the one ring to reach for the other and fly there. So that, we know that what's on the other side is going to be a better version of relationship and a better version of knowing ourselves. And it's going to be worth that in between discomfort.
Heather, I wanted to ask you about this thing, because I just got an instant question. Hi, Dr. Pat. Hi, Heather Lynn. I have a question for you. We hear that if you end one relationship, that there is a time period that one should wait before the next relationship. But I've never been able to find that. I've never been able to find that empty time. Oh, that's an interesting expression. Jolynn. Okay. So the question is, right? You got the question, Heather? It's like, okay, we just broke up, but you know what? Uh-oh, look at who's sitting over there. And I'm attracted to who's sitting over there. But I just ended this relationship last month. I think I'm ready. Help me here.
That's a great question, Jolynn. I think it's really a good time to sit and ask yourself, what is it? Am I afraid of being alone? Am I looking for partnership to distract myself from discomfort or the sadness of a breakup in itself, or the sadness of getting over one relationship? A lot of people want to jump right into the next one, because then they don't actually have to deal with the feelings or the awareness that comes from the previous relationship. And there really are no rules as to when the right time is and when it's been long enough and when it hasn't. But I think it is a good time to stop and ask some sort of difficult questions. not to sugarcoat it for yourself and say, is this because I'm afraid of being alone, or am I finding my worth in another person, or am I distracting myself from feeling difficult emotions that I just don't want to feel?
Mm-hmm.
And if you do the exploration and you're like, you know what, no, I feel like this is a really good grounded space, then there really is no time frame per se when you're ready for the next one.
Yeah. So having made some of these, mistakes along the way, and we realize them, and we're now aware of them, does any of that matter? I think, and the reason that the question is coming up is because, wow, once we realize we're in that pothole, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so then we're like, oh, now what? I don't know about you, but without some tools, I just dig myself deeper and deeper and deeper. Then I get big old resentments, and now here we are. And so how do we handle some of these things that are showing up? What would you do? What would you say to folks to say, you know what? This is really what we need to do, or what you can do when the light bulb goes on.
Yeah, so when we fall into those potholes, I love this analogy actually, because when we're living and loving on autopilot, we're looking ahead, right? We're not really looking or thinking about what we're doing. We're just walking, we're moving in our sort of zombie state. And if we keep staying in that zombie state, we are going to fall into the potholes because we don't see them. And so when we do this sort of work of asking ourselves these questions and really understanding our deeper drives and our deeper desires that are going on in our unconscious mind, then we have that, it's like that wake up call of awareness. And instead of walking down that street on autopilot, you will be looking around and saying, oh, I see that pothole. And I see that I'm actually tempted to go back into it because that's my default zone.
Yes.
But I'm going to actually choose to do the opposite of what I would normally do in this situation. So if you're somebody who plays games, if you're somebody who, reads a text message and says, oh, I'm sitting right by my phone, but I don't want the person to know that I'm sitting right by my phone. So I'm going to, put it away for an hour and a half or whatever the rule is. The opposite might be something as simple as texting the person right back, so it can be really simple things. It doesn't have to be this grand shift all at once, but it is having that conscious awareness of knowing that what your default is and then choosing to do the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Well, we must think that there's an end game to the game. I mean, there must be something that goes on with us where we think, oh, okay, if I play these games, if I do these things, this is the result it's going to get. And, so let's take a minute to talk about showing up as our authentic selves. What does that look like? What does it feel like? And what, in your experience, what kind of result will it produce for people?
Yeah, so of course, in my coaching, I don't guarantee that you'll meet somebody within a certain time frame. But what does happen is you'll feel so different when you show up on these dates and in these relationships, because there's a feeling of real groundedness and openness. And, we're triggered a lot by people. And by triggered, I mean we have these emotional reactions, and sometimes they're very strong. And you'll see that the triggers that are normal, they sort of dissipate, and we can really accept and love people for how they're showing up. And we have a lot of power then in our relationships, because if we go back to that mistake of blaming everyone else, if we see that we're triggered in a situation, then we can say, oh, I'm going to actually take my power back here. And there's something about myself to see. It's not about the other person. And what a great space to navigate relationship from, because we can be really honest and really authentic and grounded in who we are, and experience and accept this other person for his or her whole self as well.
Mm. We've heard a lot about, this idea of an authentic self. And sometimes, we have done some work on this and have had an experience of this. And doesn't this also help us recognize when somebody that we're dating or we're with is playing those games. Isn't this also part of, wait, if I'm saying I don't do this, don't we want to be able to recognize this in other people?
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's hard to recognize, sometimes we're projecting our own meaning onto their actions, and they might not be playing games. But I think what happens is, as long as we're grounded in ourselves, and our only responsibility is to show up as authentically as we possibly can, then the right person's going to stay and the wrong person's going to fall away. So if it's someone who's a game player, who is really showing up and playing games, and that's not really who we want. We want someone who's grounded and open and vulnerable. Then if we keep showing up open, grounded, vulnerable, then that person will get uncomfortable with our openness, and he or she will eventually fall away. So really our only responsibility is to be ourselves.
Wow. So tell us a couple of the ways that we can discover and how to make this whole looking for love experience a really cool one. Because we hear more like war stories about what this is about than we do, joy stories, right? And, we just alluded to the fact of online dating, and people don't even engage in that. They won't even do it because they are just like, oh my gosh, I've heard it so hard. I don't know how to make it fun. Can you talk about this? Because if we're not looking at getting into looking for love from a different perspective than being cynical or based on our past, boy, it is not going to change for us, is it?
Yeah, I think I find dating to be a really fun adventure, and I think it can be a fun adventure for everybody. If we look at it from that angle of, okay, what is this showing me about me? And what will happen if I show up as my full self? And what would happen if I, usually in the past, I wouldn't share this part of myself, or I wouldn't stand up for myself in this situation, or I would overgive, or whatever your pattern looks like. And it just becomes this grand experiment. What if I didn't do that this time? What if I said what was on my mind instead of keeping it because I was afraid of chasing that person away? Or what if I asked for what I wanted here and instead of just staying quiet? What if I answered the phone right away? I think it just becomes this learning experience about ourselves, that we can see how our mind is reacting to all of those situations, and learn about our authentic self. This is a great way to actually uncover who you really are, is by being in this flow of experimenting with other people, not using them, but using this platform as a way to know yourself better.
Yeah, I mean, someone explained something to me once upon a time and said, look, this is like learning a skill, right? Unless you practice typing, you know what? Chances are you're going to stay like a two-finger typist. Is this world of searching for love, finding love, looking for love, all of that, is that the same? Are we really here beyond personal growth and discovering our authentic self? Aren't there some skills and tools that you help people to explore and learn?
Yeah, I think, starting with that, if people are online dating, I think starting with making sure their profile is really honest as we can get it. I think that's really important. And I do think that going on dates and being open, not seeing finding love as a numbers game, because I don't think that is a numbers game, but just being willing and open to go in from a space of openness. One of the other mistakes, quote unquote mistakes, I see people making is they're dating with this real bitterness. Like, I don't want to be out here, and there are no good men, or there are no good women. And so, of course, because our mind is so powerful, if we're filtering our dates through that lens, then we won't see the beauty or the goodness in them. So I think it's really about going into these experiences with a very open heart and a very open mind, rather than coming from a space of bitterness too.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk for a minute, if we could, about what happens and how we're affected by, let's just say, our hearts being broken. Because I know that we'll probably be talking about this in a future show, but heartbreak is something that people don't believe they'll ever recover from, and their behavior then changes. And we hear this over and over again, Heather. I'm never going to trust again. And so, this is just one of these conversations that, we've talked about some of the mistakes, but underneath the mistakes, there is some kind of emotional hit that we've taken. What would you say to the folks that have been, just hit right hard in the heart?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Heartbreak can be that moment of awakening, that I was talking about for my own self. And I do think that what I saw, and I'll just speak my personal story because I think it's pretty universal, is I saw how much of my own power I was giving away to my partners. I was putting so much into them, and not really understanding who I really was. And so when we are in these relationships that are imbalanced, we put our partners on a pedestal, or we've given ourselves fully, and we can give ourselves fully to them. But I guess what I'm getting at is, if we are not in our wholeness, then that breakup will be that much harder, and it'll be harder to trust other people. But if we really understand who we are, we feel very grounded in ourselves, we feel very whole in ourselves, then it's okay to trust again. And we will know that, we will know that, okay, this is all I need is everything I need is inside of me. And this other person is just an addition to my life, not my everything.
Wow. There's so many things to look at. What would you say, if we could, we have a couple minutes left, what would you say the greatest challenges are for people looking for love? And even perhaps the greatest opportunities in the world in the days we live in today?
I think the biggest challenge that I see is that people are really feeling that they have to protect and guard themselves. And they have to show up a certain way, that they have to be perfect, and their persona has to be really strong. Because we do live in a very beauty conscious and media conscious society. So I think that that's a really hard one for people to come up against, and be willing to let go of, and trust that everybody is lovable just for who they are. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge that I see people facing. But as I said, it's also a great time to experience dating so easily, so much easier than people in the past did. And so if we do see dating and finding love as a great adventure and a great way to understand ourselves better, then it is really fun. And it can be just a great opportunity to move forward and moving towards what we want. We have to be out there if we want to find a partner. If that's really what we're craving, then we have to be out there and willing to interact and have the hope that it's possible.
I love it. Thank you for today's show. And before we just hop off here, please, one more time, tell folks about Open Up to Love, the 6-month group coaching session. I know it's going to begin September 7th. Just give folks a sneak peek at what's to come.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun. So we're going to talk about unconscious mind a lot, and talk about how that unconscious is driving the type of people that we attract and how we sabotage relationships. And we'll talk about core love beliefs that people have, and just really uncover who the authentic you is. And then we'll use all that knowledge to get unstuck and get off of autopilot so that you can see the potholes and make a different choice.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for all that you do. Thank you for a great show today. And one last question. We have a little bit left. What's your personal message? What would you like to leave us with today?
You can drop the games and you are lovable for your full, authentic self. You don't have to hide anything.
Thank you so much, Heather Lynn. And for those of you out there, if you want to find out more, just go ahead and go to heatherlynncoaching.com. And when you get there, you'll see the information about Inner Circle Coaching as well. Contact information, what this is all about, how you can find love for your real, authentic self. Even if you're not entirely sure who that is anymore. Wow. Thanks, Heather. Thanks, Benny. Thank you all for tuning us in, turning us on. We'll see you next time.
Tides that I tried to swim against.